In 2024, a new chapter has begun in the global political and military landscape. The United States, by sharing advanced military technology with its allies, has gained a strategic advantage on multiple battlefronts worldwide. The U.S. significantly pressured China and Russia. This strategic shift has left Russia and China deeply concerned, leading them to invest considerable effort and resources in an attempt to decipher the intentions of the United States and Western countries. In 2024, China may continue to disrupt the international scene. It attempts to assess whether the U.S. poses a significant military and technological threat. If the U.S. lacks such capabilities, China and Russia may become more audacious in provoking international conflicts. Otherwise, China and Russia might opt for a more cautious approach. In this context, the exposure of the name list of the Jeffrey Epstein case has become a leverage in political battles and diplomatic pressures in the U.S. Under the pressure, the Biden administration may make further military support decisions in favor of Israel, while at the same time reducing support for Ukraine. Crimea in Ukraine has become a new hotspot of conflict. On January 5th, Ukraine launched a large-scale offensive, with cruise missiles and drones directly targeting Russian troops. This action reflects Ukraine's reassessment of its military strategy towards Russia. After the attack on Belgorod just before the new year, Putin's response was just verbal condemnation and limited missile retaliation. In the Middle East, political turmoil in Iraq has escalated further. On January 4th, the U.S. carried out an airstrike in Baghdad, hitting a vehicle and killing a terrorist leader in Iraq and another individual. This attack prompted a strong reaction from Iraqi Prime Minister Sadr, who announced measures to expel all U.S. troops. Iraq's decision reflects the increasingly tense relationship between Iraq and the U.S., as well as the influence of China, Russia, and Iran in the region. Turkey's geopolitical stance also shows complexity. Despite Turkish leader Erdogan's desire to align with the Russia-China axis, his ambitions are constrained by Turkey's membership in NATO. Additionally, the killing of a senior Hamas official by Israel in Lebanon has increased Erdogan's concerns about his own safety. The situation spanning from Europe to the Middle East, down to the South China Sea and Northeast Asia, showcases escalation of conflicts and tensions. In this context, the U.S.'s global military strategy becomes increasingly crucial, particularly in its efforts to contain and suppress what is referred to as the axis of evil, which includes China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. The allocation of funds and policy formulation in the new U.S. National Defense Authorization Act clearly illustrates America's strategic considerations in global military deployments. The aim is to weaken the influence of these countries through military and economic means. Wherever military issues arise, the United States has the capability to control and, if necessary, mitigate them, causing China and Russia to continuously bleed under U.S. military pressure, resulting in the erosion of their military deployments and capabilities. Both China and Russia had previously hoped that internal contradictions and political turmoil in Western societies would provide them with new political opportunities on the international stage. But recent developments have not unfolded as expected. On the contrary, Western countries have shown unity and resilience in the face of external challenges. Instead, it is in the latter part of 2023 that the CCP has encountered significant internal problems. There have been disagreements emerging between Russia and China on resource support for Russian military needs. Russia's demands for resources from China have been increasing. In order to meet these demands, China has had to scavenge resources internally and adjust its strategic priorities. The Russian Prime Minister's 2 visits to China last year, at the beginning and end of the year, indicate that China's support in resources has not met Russia's demand. Furthermore, multiple meetings between leaders of Russia and China have failed to completely dispel mutual suspicions. While the two countries maintain a cooperative facade, there are significant differences in strategic resources and economic interests that require direct negotiations between the two leaders. Overall, the challenges facing China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are not only external in terms of political and military pressure, but also internal, related to economic and strategic resource issues. The U.S. strategic deployments and policy adjustments on the international stage are significantly impacting this geopolitical landscape. Recently, the radical rhetoric and actions of Hamas have garnered widespread attention in the Middle East. The organization has boldly promoted anti-Semitic slogans for the first time, attempting to incite broader anti-Jewish sentiments in order to attract more Muslim countries to join its anti-American and anti-Western alliance. But, over time, Western countries have successfully suppressed this anti-Semitic rhetoric, avoiding the expected social turmoil and systemic collapse. Instead, internal conflicts and issues are emerging among some organizations in the Middle East. Of particular note is the increasingly tense relationship between Hamas and Hezbollah. Hamas, a Sunni organization, has support from China, while Hezbollah is a Shiite organization closely connected to Iran. The recent loss of a key figure in Hezbollah has raised questions within Hamas. Hamas is questioning why its leader, al-Arouri, was located and targeted by Israel in Hezbollah-controlled territory, suspecting possible betrayal from within. Hamas has repeatedly urged Hezbollah to immediately launch an attack against Israel on another front. But Hezbollah has been slow to take significant action, only firing some rockets. Hezbollah leader Nasrallah also refrained from declaring war on Israel after this recent event. This cautious approach has caused a rift in trust between Hamas and Hezbollah. In the latter half of 2023, the U.S. implemented a series of policies and regulations that are impactful on global strategic balance, particularly affecting the China-Russia alliance. Both countries have shown a more passive posture at the strategic level, essentially relying on nuclear deterrence as their main card. Russia openly hinted at the possibility of nuclear blackmail towards Ukraine. China also had long announced its capability to deploy nuclear warheads. In response to this strategy, the U.S. and Western countries have shown a balanced reaction, neither excessively alarmed nor dismissive. This balanced response leaves China and Russia uncertain when assessing the U.S. strategic intentions and capabilities. While China's and Russia's nuclear deterrence strategies may appear strong on the surface, they seem to have fallen short of their expected effects in the face of strategies from the U.S. and Western countries. The current strategies of China and Russia involve attempting to disrupt and confuse through various means in order to uncover the United States' hand in nuclear strategy and international security. In recent international military exercises and operations, the U.S. has showcased segments of its advanced military technology, drawing global attention. During a joint patrol with the Philippines, Chinese military forces failed to detect the presence of a U.S. aircraft carrier. The U.S. aircraft carrier did indeed participate in the operation. This event suggests that the U.S. may have made significant progress in stealth and radar-evading technologies. Furthermore, in a precise strike against a senior Hamas official, the missile used is believed to have carried a warhead of over 100 kilograms and was most likely launched from an aircraft. But no fighter jets were witnessed or detected during this operation. This situation indicates that Israel may be testing the latest generation of cutting-edge military technology provided by the U.S. Meanwhile, NASA recently announced a major technological achievement: a silent supersonic aircraft. The public release is expected to take place in mid-January. The development and application of these technologies further underscore the U.S. leading position in the field of military technology and its advanced capabilities in areas such as stealth and rapid strike capabilities. For Russia and China, these advancements in U.S. military technology pose a significant challenge, even though both nations are skeptical regarding the authenticity of the technologies. Recent developments in international security have highlighted the strategic advantage that the U.S. has gained globally by sharing advanced military technology with its allies. In the beginning of 2024, both the U.S. and its allies demonstrated increasingly proactive and assertive behavior in their respective operations, even though the U.S. military itself has not significantly increased its direct involvement. In Ukraine, thanks to U.S. military support and technology sharing, the Ukrainian armed forces have displayed a higher level of tactical proficiency in their conflict with Russia. Their military capabilities are now capable of countering Russia's numerical military superiority. This shift allows Ukraine to engage with Russian forces on more equal terms on the battlefield. On the Korean Peninsula, South Korea has maintained comprehensive military superiority over North Korea, while carefully avoiding crossing any nuclear red lines. This situation reflects the influence and strategic deployment of the U.S. in the region. In the Middle East, Israel's military operations showcase a high degree of flexibility and autonomy. The Israeli military can make agile decisions regarding attacks, withdrawals, and the expansion or reduction of military operations based on the situation on the ground. This capability is, in part, a result of U.S. military support and technological cooperation. Facing these challenges, Russia and China have expressed clear concerns. Both countries have invested significant resources in attempting to understand and respond to the strategic positioning of the U.S. and its allies. But so far, they have not been able to directly confront the U.S. military might. New York, January 4, 2024. The Manhattan Federal Court in New York has released a list that has garnered widespread attention, containing the names of over 150 prominent individuals who visited American financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Island, official name Little St. James. This list includes influential figures from various fields, including political leaders and Hollywood stars. Of particular interest in this list are several heavyweight figures from the Democratic Party, including President Joe Biden, former President Bill Clinton, former First Lady Hillary Clinton. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump, who has faced intense criticism from the Democratic Party, does not appear on the list. Reports suggest that Trump had flown on Epstein's plane, but allegedly had established regulations prohibiting underage individuals from entering his casino. The background of this event is linked to the previous scrutiny Jeffrey Epstein faced over allegations of sexual crimes and human trafficking. He died by suicide in prison in 2019, leaving behind many unanswered questions. Political analysts view this exposure of the list as potentially being misconstrued as a political attack by the Republican Party against the Democratic Party. But the timing appears somewhat unconventional. If this release of Epstein's list is indeed intended for election purposes, it would have been more logically revealed during the television debate stage or closer to the election, similar to what happened in 2016. Therefore, there may be deeper motivations behind this disclosure. It is worth noting that some of the political figures on the list have the ability and means to influence media coverage. Yet they remained unusually silent and did not take any measures to prevent the list's publication. In particular, individuals like the Clintons, Bill Gates, and others showed no significant reaction during the 13 days between the judge's announcement of the list's impending release and its final disclosure. This passive attitude may suggest that the forces exposing them wield far greater power than these individuals personally. The list of over 150 prominent individuals mentioned, while having visited the so-called Lolita Island, does not in itself prove any criminal activity on their part. This incomplete exposure serves as a potential tool for political manipulation. If the relevant individuals do not follow certain undisclosed rules, there may be more evidence and documents made public. Meanwhile, the actions of U.S. Secretary of Defense Austin have sparked widespread discussions in political circles. From January 1st to the 4th, he suddenly checked into the ICU without White House knowledge. Coincidentally, on the same day the list was released, Austin was discharged from the hospital and announced his return to normal duties. This timing coincidence has led to speculation about whether he may have sensed political pressure and crisis behind the list. Some analysts believe that the publication of the Epstein list could be an expression of dissatisfaction by forces associated with Jewish capital regarding the situation in the Middle East. They may be attempting to use the information in the list to pressure the Democratic administration in supporting Israel's military actions in the Middle East. Austin may have felt that Jewish influences could potentially bypass the liberals and directly issue commands to him. At this critical moment, Austin chose to temporarily step aside, handing over military command to the Deputy Secretary of Defense to avoid direct decision-making and potential political risks. But, as the situation evolves, especially after the release of the list, the Democratic Party leadership has found themselves in a precarious position. Austin may have perceived that continuing to feign illness would only increase the risk, so he chose to reappear in the public eye, possibly seeking a more secure position in the new political landscape. Furthermore, if future military action directives against Houthi militants or Iran were to arise, Austin might actively respond to win the support of Jewish influences, while also influencing America's global strategic direction. On the other end of international politics, on January 5th, former U.S. intelligence official Scott Ritter appeared in Chechnya, sparking new political waves. His visit may signal a new U.S. strategy in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. In the Chechnya capital of Grozny, Kadyrov proposed the release of 20 Ukrainian captives in exchange for lifting sanctions against his family and horses. This list may contain information about the identities of American mercenaries, drawing significant attention. The identities of the individuals on this list are yet to be confirmed, but they may include American mercenaries. This development has drawn significant attention in American political circles. The Republican Party may use this list to strengthen its attacks on the current President Joe Biden, especially in his handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Meanwhile, the White House may seize this opportunity to initiate preliminary contacts and promote ceasefire negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. At the same time, whether or not to reach a private agreement with Kadyrov through the Treasury Department to lift sanctions against his family has become a sensitive issue. In a recent internal meeting in Russia, Patrushev and other senior officials expressed their hopes for Donald Trump to return as the president of the U.S. This expectation partly stems from Vladimir Putin, as they believe Trump could resolve various issues facing the Russian leadership in undisclosed ways. Scott Ritter, the former intelligence official considered a friend of Russia, is now placed at the center of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He became a pivotal figure that could influence the direction of international relations. Russia's use of this indirect method to convey negotiation messages demonstrates both a willingness to engage in talks and a maintained level of discretion. On the political stage in Europe, the pro-German stance of the Polish government has raised eyebrows, especially in the context of Germany and Russia competing for political influence in Serbia. In Asia, the recent earthquake in Ishikawa Prefecture, Japan, has sparked speculation about its cause. Some voices suggest that this earthquake may have been caused by directed energy weapons. They pointed out that Ishikawa Prefecture is the hometown of the Maeda family, which played a role in Japan's independence movement. Meanwhile, suspicion arose on January 5th when an aircraft from the Japan Coast Guard appeared on a civilian airliner's runway, raising concerns of a remote-controlled hijacking. In East Asia, the views of a mysterious Taoist prophet who escaped from China to South Korea have garnered increasing attention. He predicts that China won't be the main player in future conflicts. Instead, conflict between Japan and Russia could erupt in Chinese territory and waters. The prophet offers a non-traditional interpretation of earthquakes in Japan. He described them as a symbol of the awakening dragon veins at sea. He forecasts that Japan may experience more natural disasters this year, such as heavy fog, torrential rain, floods, tsunamis, and aftershocks. But he emphasizes that considering Japan's long-standing emergency preparedness and disaster response experience, these events may ultimately not have significant substantial impacts. The prophet predicts that Japan will undergo significant events around mid-year, followed by rapid developments, particularly in the military industry, based on breakthroughs in new energy sources. Regarding the Korean Peninsula, the prophet believes that East Asia could experience more turmoil this year, possibly even leading to conflicts. He attributes this turbulence to the influence of the awakening dragon veins, and suggests that it could pose challenges to the political and military stability of the Korean Peninsula.